I mentioned on Sunday that Charles Spurgeon, early 20th century British preacher, used to tell his students when they spoke on heaven that they were to smile a lot, but when they spoke on hell, their normal face would do. So this week, I've been using my normal face. And today, we continue on the topic of, it's sort of hell adjacent. The discussion is on Satan. Now, I suspect it's not hard for you to immediately conjure to mind a rather comic portrayal of Satan. You know, he's got horns and a red spandex suit and, you know, has a pitchfork and a forked tail and all that. Look, though that imagery is not from the Bible. I think it sort of has some medieval origins to it, and I read this somewhere, I just have not been able to find it. And I have Googled for a while, trying to figure out where I read this. But I heard somebody say that there was this insight, and maybe it's the Puritans, that said the one thing Satan cannot handle is to be mocked. That just affects his pride, and so Satan is not an omnipresent being, right? He is not like God's equal, but opposite. Satan is a limited, finite, fallen angel, and so he can't be everywhere. And so the Puritans had this idea that they would keep Satan away by mocking him, and so they drew these pictures in which he was a very buffoonerish kind of character. So anyway, there's also coming out of Milton's Paradise Lost, there's this idea that Satan is running hell, right? That he's sort of in charge, and that he's got a big role there. So, you know, that whole epic poem begins with the fall of Satan and the angels into hell, and then they sort of colonize the place. They set up shop, and I remember when Gary Larson was doing Far Side Comics, he would often have what was happening in hell. The one I liked in particular showed aerobics in hell, and it shows this, you know, demon, again, sort of red and, you know, horns and all that, and he says, you know, it's 2,498, 2,499, 2,500. Okay, next leg. 1, 2. So the idea is you're doing leg lifts, and so you got to do 2,500 leg lifts on your right leg, and then you begin doing 2,500 leg lifts on the left end. So the idea here is that Satan is in charge of hell, and that's not what we get from the Bible. That's just not what we get. 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4 reads, "For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but sent them to hell, putting them in chains of darkness to be held for judgment." So there's no suggestion that they're in chains of darkness, that they are, you know, sort of running hell, and hell's just one big fraternity party where they're hanging out and everything's evil, but it's, you know, sort of fun in a evil kind of way. That's not what we see the Bible saying. Now, I mentioned before, I think it was in the sermon, that there's a couple different words that get used, a couple different Greek terms that are used for hell, Hades and Gehenna. The word that gets used in 2 Peter is actually a different word, Tartarus, and this describes sort of a shadowy underworld, and it's a place where judgment is meted out. And it's unclear whether or not that's the same place that fallen, broken, unrepentant people go or not. So the idea, though, is that the teaching is that there's punishment for the fallen angels. They're not punishing, if that makes sense. And Satan is the chief of the angels. He's the you know, the anti-hero, and I'm not going to go into all the things that we know or could say about him. He's the tempter. He's the deceiver. It's clear he is attempting to try and influence and deceive us, and that although he has been defeated by the death of Christ, these last days are a time when Satan and his and his cohorts are doing what they can to try and mislead people, deceive people for evil to prosper. But what we get is that in the end, Satan is going to be cast into the lake of fire where everyone else will be cast. And there's some suggestion. Again, there's individuality and personality, recognizability in heaven, right? We get that imagery. But the suggestion is that maybe hell is just one big, where people are anonymous, and that's part of the punishment for Satan, is that he's no more significant there than anyone else. So look, as with many things in the afterlife, we don't have as many answers as we might like, but be assured of this, that while there is a sense in which evil is still running amok, evil is in its last days, evil does not win, God wins, and evil will be ultimately defeated, and we have no reason to fear Satan or his demons because of the victory that Jesus has won for us. And so don't have to focus on Satan or learn. You focus on Jesus. Jesus wins, and Satan will be defeated ultimately. Have a good day.